agenda natin. Wala na agenda. Please.
Wala pa sila naman eh.
Sunod naman.
Parik naman yun. Oh. Meron naman sila naman.
Ano, sir?
Kunti na lang yung organizational structure sa quorum sa federal state. Yung parliament. Tapos yung legislative, bicameral, parliamentary, yung term limit, economic division, number of years term. Tapos no more term limits.
Wala? Ano tong to? Anong reading to? Isa. Magbabasa siya. Sponsorship. Isa lang. Ano 1/4? Tapos, that's it. Adjourn. Ganoon. LTO. Usually, this is referred to the meeting rules. The session is now called to order. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupit, di ka masisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilig. Lupa ng araw ng walang aming pagsikta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga apit, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for 1-minute silent prayer. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend the session.
Session suspended.
Acknowledging the presence of the Honorable Mayor of Makati, Abigail Binay, escorted by Representative Campos.
Session resume. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we defer the calling of the roll.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we defer the approval of the journal of the previous session.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of the bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports.
The Secretary General is requested to read the bills, the titles of the bills.
Reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 5236.
To the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Bill 5237, providing for the construction of a coastal road in the province of Negros Occidental, Representatives Benitez and Gasataya.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill 5238, declaring February 13 of every year special and working public holiday in the city of Parañaque, Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Revision of Laws.
House Bill 5239, providing scholarship grants to public school teachers to pursue graduate studies, Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
Resolutions, House Resolution 868, urging the Committee on Ways and Means to investigate the alleged tax evasion of certain transportation network companies, Representative Batocabe.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 869, urging the Committee on Housing and Urban Development to inquire into the forced occupation of the members of the urban pool.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 870, congratulating, commending, and awarding a Congressional Medal of Distinction to Mr. Romero Duno, Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 871, direct the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries to inquire the ownership claim of the BSP upon 18-hectare property in situ, Tiyakad, Barangay San Mateo, Norsagaray, Bulacan, Representative Silverio.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 872, commending the top 10 graduates and graduating class of the PNPA Masidlak class of 2017, Representative Loyola.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 870, congratulating and commending Miriam Libong Kogon for graduating from the PMA, Representative Garcia Gwendolyn.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 874, calling for investigation on the cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment of prisoners at the Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center, Representative Garcia Gwendolyn.
To the Committee on Rules.
Messages from the Senate. Message dated March 13, informing the House and Senate even date passed Senate Bill 1277.
To the Committee on Rules.
Message dated March 13, informing the House and Senate even date passed Senate Bill 1304.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
Messages dated March 13, informing the House and Senate even date passed with amendments, House Bill numbers 4631 and 4637.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communication. Letter dated February 1 of Jesus Ayaves, Undersecretary, Office of the Secretary for Migrant Workers Affairs, Department of Foreign Affairs.
To the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Committee reports, report numbers 168 to 170 of House Bill numbers 5241, 1928, and 2130.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the privilege hour with the leave of the House.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from the 3rd District of Camarines Sur, Representative Gabriel Bordado, Jr.
Representative Bordado is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise, Mr. Speaker, on a matter of personal and collective privilege. For the past few weeks, Mr. Speaker, there appears to be a systematic campaign being conducted by anonymous individuals in the social media to denigrate and besmirch the outstanding public service record and reputation of the late former Naga City Mayor and DILG Secretary Jesse M. Robredo, long acknowledged as a veritable icon of good governance in the country. Mr. Speaker, in what can be viewed as a Machiavellian sense of logic, the online campaign seeks to demolish the image of the late Secretary with the ultimate aim of destroying, for all intents and purposes, his widow, the incumbent Vice President Leni Herona Robredo. As most of us here know, Mr. Speaker, then DILG Secretary Robredo figured in a fatal plane crash off the coast of Masbate. A lot of people from all over the country considered Secretary Jesse's death as a tragedy of monumental proportions, with the Philippine government according him a state funeral and the highest citation for a civilian. Almost 5 years later, Mr. Speaker, obliterating and blasting to smithereens Jesse's name and extraordinary accomplishments as a genuine servant leader seem to be the order of the day. And to think, Mr. Speaker, that he cannot even defend himself because he is dead. This, I believe, Mr. Speaker, is another tragedy of gargantuan proportions. Mr. Speaker, some people say that we, as government officials, as congressmen, as congresswomen, should never be onion-skinned. Well and good, Mr. Speaker. Yet, as pointed out by my former colleague at the Sangguniang Panlungsod ng Naga, the lawyer Mila Rakid Arroyo, and I quote, "The exercise of one's constitutionally guaranteed right to free speech or expression becomes unreasonable when it tramples upon the rights of others." Unquote. In the case of the late Secretary Robredo, the social media excoriation went a bit too far, linking him to illegal activities and even questioning the legitimacy of his Ramon Magsaysay Award, arguably Asia's counterpart of the Nobel Prize. This prompted the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation, through its president, Madam Carmencita Abella, to issue a statement the other day, dragging my name in the process. The statement is self-explanatory. Indeed, I never lobbied and was never involved in the Foundation's review, deliberation, and selection of Jesse Robredo as the 2000 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Government Service. Mr. Speaker, I also appreciate and wholeheartedly agree with Mrs. Abella's assertion that the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation considers Jesse Robredo a fully deserving and highly respected Ramon Magsaysay laureate. The great Saint Augustine once said, "The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself." Unquote. But Mr. Speaker, what is terrifying, though, in the current social media attacks on the late Secretary and his wife, the Vice President, has been the online threat posted by a male Facebook user, diabolically expressed in graphic detail, to rape their 3 young daughters. This, I believe, Mr. Speaker, goes well beyond the line of trampling the rights of other people. Mr. Speaker, there really ought to be a tough law aimed at addressing the misuse and abuse of the social media. As a colleague here at the House of Representatives eloquently puts it, and I quote, "Its harm is far more damaging because the trauma it can inflict, even when no physical injury is involved, can strip one's dignity, sow fear, or incite violence in an environment that has no boundaries and where malicious posts can be distributed rapidly," unquote. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the gentleman from the party list Buhay, Representative Jose. Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the privileged speech of Representative Gabriel Bordado to the respective committee.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the gentleman from party list Buhay, Representative Jose Atienza Jr.
Representative Jose Atienza Jr. of Buhay Party List is hereby recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Dear colleagues, I rise on a question of personal and utmost important collective privilege. We would like to call attention to a continuous disregard for our history and culture. Kanina po, napadaan ako sa Paco, Maynila. Nakita ko po yung monumento ng isang dakilang Hapones na nagangalang Lord Yukon Takayama ng Takatsuki, Japan. Ito pong taong ito ay kinikilala hindi lamang po sa Japan, kundi dito sa ating bansa bilang isang taong namuhay ng marangal, respetable, kagalang-galang, at higit sa lahat, mayroong kabayanihan. This gentleman was a lord in his city in Takatsuki during his lifetime. And because of his past historical record, he was recognized by the Philippine government and the city of Manila, no less, constructed a monument for him, located at Plaza Dilao, Paco, Manila. Yung pong kanyang monumento ay ginawang tambakan ng basura, debris, construction materials, iron bars, cement bags, stone, gravel, and sand, at ginawang mistulang tambakan ng kung ano-anong mga bagay na hindi po binigyan ng paggalang yung parking yun na itinalaga sa ala-ala nitong si Lord Yukon Takayama. Hindi po tama yon, Mr. Speaker, sapagkat itong taong ito'y minamahal ng mga tiga-Maynila at minamahal ng kanyang bansang Hapon sa kanyang buhay na kanyang ginawang larawan ng maayos at tamang pamumuhay. Lord Yukon Takayama lived at a time when Christianity was banned in the country of Japan. That to be a Christian believing in God was punishable by death. At a time when no one stood for the genuine meaning of Christianity in our world. But he stood up to be converted, to become a Catholic, and excelled in his public office as a man respecting and believing in the Almighty God. And for that, he was banished from Japan. Pinaalis doon sa kanyang lungsod na pinamumunuan. At siya'y binalaan. Pag pinagpatuloy mo ang iyong pananampalataya, ikaw ay aming pupugutan ng ulo at lahat ng ari-arian ng iyong pamilya ay aming kukunin, kukumpiskahin. Hindi po natakot itong taong ito. Nagpakalalaki at siya'y nangatwiran hanggang siya ay itinapon sa labas ng bansa. Itinapon siya sa isang bansang naniniwala sa kapangyarihan ng Panginoong Diyos. Doon nga po, dito po sa ating lungsod ng Maynila in 1614. Hindi nagtagal ang kanyang buhay sapagkat siya na inabot ng lahat ng sakit sa kanyang sama ng loob at pangungulila. And because of that, the Spanish government ruling then our islands even threatened to invade Japan, sakupin ng Japan at turuan sila ng mahalagang leksyon. Ang tumayo upang hindi pumayag at nagreklamo at nagsabing hindi siya sasang-ayon kailanman na ang kanyang minamahal na bansa, nagkamali man ay hindi niya nais parusahan. So he stood for his principles, he fought for his faith, and for that, he was punished with banishment. So the memory of this man is not ordinary, especially our times today, where the good is considered bad and the bad is considered good. Now that our young are growing up with the influences of the world and losing their Filipino character even, their culture, their historical perspective. Narinig natin ang isa nating kasamahan na naglahad ng kanyang sama ng loob tungkol sa magbibigay, paninira sa alaala ng isang dakilang Pilipino rin, Jesse Robredo. Yung mga ganyang pangyayari, Mr. Speaker, at yung nakikita nating pambabastos sa alaala ng mga magigiting na tao ay hindi magbibigay ng magandang direksyon sa ating bansa, sa ating lipunan, lalo-lalo na sa mga kabataan na kailangan bigyan natin ng tamang pamumuhay at paniniwala. We must now correct what seemingly is becoming a habit of government. That culture and sports are not given any, culture and history are not given the importance that they deserve in our daily way of life. Yung pambabastos na yon na ginagawa natin sa isang dakilang tao, banyaga man siya, subalit nagpakita ng kanyang kagalingan, ay dapat nating pansinin at bigyan natin ng panawagan. We are calling on the National Historical Commission. We are calling on the National Commission on Culture and the Arts. We're calling on the local government of Manila. We're calling on the national government to do something about this continuous disregard for history and culture. Yan po ay isang bagay na napakaliit para pansinin ng karamihan. Subalit napakahalaga ng mga pangyayari ngayon na kailangan ang kabataan ay mabigyan ng tamang leksyon. Ang ating naririnig, ang ibibigay pa sa mga kabataan ngayon ay kondom. Ang ibibigay ay paano huwag magbuntis yung kanilang pagtatali. Anong klaseng lipunan ang ating dadatnan kung ito po ang ating pananaigin samantalang binabastos natin ang alaala ng mga taong dapat ay dinadakila natin? Kung papayagan nating sirain ang alaala ni Jesse Robredo, kung papayagan nating bastusin ang alaala nitong Lord Yukon Takayama ito na hindi man natin kilala ngayon, subalit na buhay bilang isang dakilang tao, ay tunay na may problema tayo. Itong problema ito ay kailangan bigyan ng pansin sa lalong madaling panahon. Sapagkat nakikita na po natin ang mga bunga ng ganitong uri ng pagsasawalang bahala. Kamakailan lang tayo po'y ginunita natin yung anibersaryo ng ating katangi-tanging People Power Revolution. Ginanap ito dito po sa dambana ng EDSA Revolution, sa EDSA. Dumaan kayo roon anumang araw, makikita ninyo. Yung mga bandirang ginagamit nila roon at inilahad nila nung anibersaryo ay mga bandirang nanggigitara na, may putik na, gutay-gutay na. Nakakahiya, Mr. Speaker. Nakakahiya na aminin tayo ay wala tayong pagpapahalaga sa ating bandila. Subalit ito ang nakikita natin sa mga dambana na itinuturing nating dapat ay ating binibigyan ng galang. Kung walang pambili ng bandila, itong mga ahensya na dapat nangangalaga, ibinibigay ko na ang aking allowances dito sa Kongreso. Ibili natin ang bandila, buwan-buwan palitan nila upang makita ang ating bandila sa kanyang kulay, sa kanyang alaala, sa kanyang gunita at kabayanihan ng ating bansa. Ibibili ko ng bandila, gamitin nila kung ayaw nilang gamitin yung kanilang kapangyarihan sa pagtupad sa kanilang tungkulin. Mr. Speaker, valuing our flag, valuing our heroes, valuing those who live properly in this world and passed this way and showed greatness in their lives should be given importance by our government, national and local. We have to defend the righteousness of this principle, otherwise we will go in the wrong direction. A few years back, we built monuments for Ninoy Aquino and Evelio Javier. If my colleagues do not know Evelio Javier, I would not blame you. But if you lived through the dark days of martial law and you had worked with this man, this young politician, the political leader of Antique, then you will realize that indeed he was a hero of his time. Binigyan namin ng paggalang sa pamamagitan ng isang monumento doon po sa Ross Boulevard. Kasama po ang bayaning Ninoy Aquino. Nung inayos po ang Ross Boulevard, hindi ko malaman kung sinadya o sa kapabayaan. Hindi naman po siguro sinadya sapagkat ang Pangulo noon ay anak nitong bayaning ito. Hindi ako makapaniwala na yung monumento ay inalis. Itinapon kung saan sapagkat na-trace namin nakatambak sa basurahan. Ganun po ba ang ating pagpapahalaga sa mga Pilipinong nagbibigay aral sa wastong pagmamahal sa bayan? Yung monumento ni Evelio Javier, hindi namin makita kung saan. Unang-una, yun po ay kasalanan, hindi lamang sa tao, kundi sa batas. Sapagkat ang salaping ginugol doon ay salapi ng bayan. So these are just some of the very glaring incidents of total disregard for our history and culture. If we do not value the past, we will never get to our future. We must remember that. And our fellow Filipinos, and even the foreigners who have crossed the path of our great Philippine Islands, should be given relevance and importance. It should be given the proper place in history, contemporary and future, so that the young will have people to emulate. They will have people to look up to. Like Evelio Javier, a simple local politician who stood pat to defend the ballot of his province. He defended the ballot in Antique, and for that, he was murdered, mutilated. Tinadtad po ng Armalite itong taong ito na hindi sumunod sa tamang payo, umalis ka na dyan sapagkat papatayin ka. The last conversation I had, what he told me was simple. Lito, I'm willing to die for the integrity of our elections. And that is exactly what happened to him. He was murdered in the plaza of Antique, San Jose Antique. And for that, we who are now benefiting for the continued sacrifices of people who defended democracy when the need for it was given them, we should honor them and continue to cherish their memory, and their lessons. Hindi po tama itong mga nakikitang to na inumpisahan ko po. Sinabi ko sa inyo, Lord Yukon Takayama, ginagalang, minamahal, nirerespeto, and even venerated by his people in Osaka, Takatsuki, Japan. A country which we consider now as our special ally, special friend. A country which hosts now hundreds of thousands of Filipinos so that they may be given an opportunity at employment in Japan. A country which now is offering itself to be an ally of the Philippines in defense of our territorial waters. Ganito po ba ang ating iaalok? Kung dumating po si Prime Minister Abe rito, kung siya'y bumisita at madaan siya ron sa nakita namin, na binabasura yung alaala ng isang dakilang Hapon. Kung kayo po naman ay naniniwala na ang demokrasya natin ay ating natamo sa kabayanihan ng Pilipino, ay hindi po naman dapat natin payagan ang alaala ng isang katulad ni Evelio Javier, Ninoy Aquino, at marami pang mga nawawalang mga kabataan nung tayo nagkaroon ng batas militar. We have to defend exactly what transpired in our history by reminding the young today that indeed there were those who were willing to offer their lives for us to enjoy a democratic way of life. We must honor and respect our fellow men who have given us the example of a strong faith like Lord Yukon Takayama. We must continue to admire those who lived right and condemn those who lived wrongly in this earth. We must continue to adulate and even venerate people who show respect for human life. Mr. Speaker, I really feel very, very sorry for our country if we do not take note of this. The Philippines is a great nation. To me, we have the greatest nation belonging to. Pinagpala tayo ng Panginoon Diyos. Ang pinakamaliit na bagay na maaari nating pagtulong-tulungan, ipagtanggol natin ang kahalagahan ng bawat buhay ng isang taong nabigyan ng hamon at tumugon ng tama. These are the gentlemen that I have mentioned, but most importantly, unless we honor and respect our own national emblem, the flag that we see in this hall, hindi po tayo uunlad kailanman. Inuulit ko, kung wala silang pambili ng bandila, handa po ako isakripisyo ang aking sweldo rito at alawan. Ibibili ko ng bandila, gamitin natin sa lahat ng dambana na nagbibigay alaala sa ating bansa at ang pagmamahal natin sa ating minamahal na Pilipinas. Patnubayan tayo ng dakilang lumikha. Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataong ito.
Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker.
I move to recognize the Honorable Rodante Marcoleta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Marcoleta is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, May I know, Mr. Speaker, if the Honorable Atienza is willing to take a few clarificatory questions?
With pride and honor coming from a gentleman like Congressman Marcoleta, I'm willing to answer any question.
Salamat po. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, nakalulungkot po na marinig yung naging bahagi po ng inyong privilege speech. Unang-una po, hindi namin lubos maisip na meron palang isang Japanese national na ginawaran ng pagkilala ng ating bansa. Iyon po yung higit na nakalulungkot sa panig namin sapagkat ako lamang po bilang isa, ngayon ko lamang nalaman na meron po pala tayong kinilalang isang banyaga na sa bansang Hapon. Bakit po nagkaganon? Saan po yung pagkukulang? Ang pagkukulang po ba ay yung buong kapamahalaan ng ating bansa? O ito po ay pagkukulang ng mga taong
merong pananagutan para makilala ang mga taong binigyan ng pagkilala ng ating bansa. Halimbawa po, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, yung pong ating National Historical Institute, halimbawa, o kung ano man pong ahensya ang may kinalaman, para paulit-ulit na ipaalam sa atin, lalong-lalo na po yung mga kabataan at mga susunod na henerasyon. Kasi po, kung walang nagpakilala sa atin, ito po, puro kabiglaanan na lang ang narinig namin ngayon. Kung wala pong magpapakilala at walang magpapa-remind sa ating lahat na meron po palang mga nagganap na mga pagkilala at ginawaran ng pagdakila ng ating bansa, hindi po siguro natin tuluyang masisisi yung mga taong nag-akala na baka kung ano lamang yung nakatayo na yun. Hindi po ba, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, ang may higit na pananagutan dito ay yung may kinalaman doon sa pagkakalagay ng monumento na yon at palagi ang ipinaalala sa mga taong malapit doon na itong taong ito na sinasagisag ng isang monumento ay dapat nating igalang sa tuwi-tuwi na at sa mga darating pang mga panahon. Sino po ba nagkulang? Halimbawa po yung paaralan doon, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, kung ano man pong paaralang pampubliko ang malapit doon. Wala po bang ginawa yung mga tagapagturo natin, yung principal, na ipakilala sa kanilang mga estudyante, mga mag-aaral, o kaya po yung mga pinuno nung lugar na nandoon? Bakit po nagkaganon, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor?
Kagalang-galang na kinatawang Marcoleta, Mr. Speaker, ang pagkukulang po ay maituturing kong pagkukulang natin lahat. Kaya nga po ako'y pinilit kong magsalita ngayon sa hapong ito upang masabi ko sa ating kapulungan at maipakilala natin itong mga taong aking binanggit. Di po naman natin kilala si Lord Yukon Takayama. Kaya minabuti po na lungsod ng Maynila, itayo siya ng monumento doon sa kinaroroonan niya. Sapagkat yung Plaza Dilao ay isang naging pamayanan ng mga Hapon na pumunta rito kasama niya. Mahigit 300 po yung mga Hapon na itinapon ng gobyerno nila, namuhay sa Paco, Maynila. Dumami, naging 3,000 sila. At yun po naman ang tinatawag natin ngayong Plaza Dilao. At doon po namin itinayo yung monumento ni Lord Yukon Takayama. Tama po, dapat ay mayroong patuloy na pagpapaalala ang mga ahensyang ating inaasahan, katulad po ng National Commission on Culture and the Arts, katulad po ng National Historical Commission. Ang ating mga local government units, dapat po ipatuloy na pinaalalahanan ng Department of Interior and Local Governments to give history, culture, and the arts a very important portion of their local governance. Dahil kung hindi po talagang makakalimutan ng karamihan ang mga ginawa na mabubuti ng mga taong nagdaan. Si Lord Yukon Takayama ay isang hindi lamang minahal, iginagalang. He in fact is venerated by the Japanese. When tourists come to Manila by the busloads, they usually go there, park their bus, go down one by one, and pay homage to their figure that they venerate in their memory. Sila pong lahat ay yumuyuko sa harapan itong estatwang ito. Ngayon, kung makikita po ninyo, Ginoong Marcoleta, mararamdaman niyo yung aking nararamdaman sapagkat para bagang baliwala sa atin yan. Kung si Prime Minister Abe ang dumating dito na nagpapakilala bilang isang tunay na kaibigan ng ating bansa, nakita niya ang ating trato sa kanilang bayaning Lord Yukon Takayama, palagay ko'y magbabago ng isip nun. Baka sabihin niya ang mga Pilipino, hindi ko kaibigan yan. Binabastos yung aming dinadakila. So the weakness is in our system itself. The agencies which are expected to defend history and culture may be lacking in their commitment to their service. Kanina lang po, tinalakay namin sa Committee on Rules na nagpapanukala ang isa nating masipag na kongresista, Congresswoman Escudero, na tiyakin natin merong isang national artist sa NCCA board. Nabanggit ko sa kanya na bakit isa lang? Mabuti siguro dagdagan natin. The NCCA should be now led by national artists. Maybe at least 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. 15 po yung kanilang members eh. Yung chairman nila ay si Chairman Almario ngayon. Yun po'y committed sa ating kasaysayan at kultura. Pero yung iba, hindi ko na po kilala kung saan nagmula. Yan eh, nilalakad nila yung appointment sa Pangulo. Pagkatapos maupo, nakakalimutan na nila yung ating bandila. Sinabi ko nga sa'yo, dumaan kayo sa EDSA, pagdaan ninyo sa EDSA shrine, tingnan po ninyo yung nakahilera ng 15 bandila yata yun. Puro nanggigitata, kulay brown. Wala na po yung bughaw, pula, puti, dilaw. Ang makikita po ninyo, nanggigitata ang bandila. Kaya uulitin ko, yung allowances ko rito, bibili ko na lang ng bandila. Palitan ninyo, buwan-buwan, ng isang kumikinang na bandilang Pilipinas upang lahat tayo ay makinabang sa alaala, pagpapaalala sa ating bandila.
Salamat po sa sagot ninyo.
Mr. Speaker, the shortcoming is ours. If we don't call the attention of those who are involved and who are responsible to take care of our history and culture.
Salamat po sa pag-amin ninyo, Ginoong Atienza, Mr. Speaker. Yun lang naman po ang gusto kong marinig na hindi naman po siguro tahasang pagkukulang ng ating buong pamamahalaan sapagkat hindi naman sa lahat ng pagkakataon ang ating gobyerno ay tinitingnan lahat, pati mga monumento na nakakalat sa ating bansa. Pananagutan po ito ng mga institusyon na nilatag ng ating pamahalaan na sila ang magbantay. So, ang hindi ko po kayang tanggapin ay kailangan nating sabihin na ito'y pagkakasala ng ating buong gobyerno. Kasi po, kung titingnan natin, maski yung ating mga sarili-sariling mga pamilya, yung nuclear family po natin, dumadami po tayo sa pagdaan ng panahon. Kaya pananagutan nung mga padre de pamilya o yung mga lolo't lola na ipakilala yung mga sumusunod na henerasyon. Kasi po, pag dumating ang manghabang panahon, hindi na sila halos magkakakilala. Ganun po ang nangyari. Naalala po ba ninyo, Mr. Speaker, yung pelikulang General Luna? Napakarami po yung mga kabataan natin na biglang nagitla. Bakit daw po yung advisor ng Pangulong Aguinaldo ay palaging nakaupo? Hindi po nila, ito po, panahon halos kailan lamang po yun. Hindi po nila kilala si Apolinario Mabini. Pilipino na po ito. Gaano pa kaya ang isang banyaga, sabi ko nga po sa inyo, ngayon ko lang po nalaman na meron palang isang banyaga na taga-bansang Hapon na kinilala pala natin. Pagkukulang po ito siguro, mismo ng siyudad ng Maynila, lalong-lalo na po yung mga ahensya na nandun sa pamamahala nito, hindi man lang po naipakilala na ang monumentong ito ay itinayo bilang pagdakila at pag-alala sa mabuting ginawa para sa ating bayan. Yun po yung pagkukulang mismo nung mga nandun mismo sa siyudad ng Maynila. Yung ating pong pamahalaan, marami po siyang iniisip din. Yun po sana, yun po sana siguro yung gusto nating sabihin na yun munang sisihin natin. Yung binigyan ng responsibilidad o tungkulin na ipakilala yung kasaysayan sa bawat Pilipino para po ito ay hindi nawawala. Habang tayo ay lumalakad patungo sa kinabukasan, ay inaalala natin ang mga makasaysayang mga tao, mga bagay, mga lugar na ito po ay magpapatingkad sa kahalagahan ng ating pagka-Pilipino at yung yaman ng ating kasaysayan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Kinatawan.
Mr. Speaker, just to wrap up my message to the body, of course, the fault lies in all of us. Tama po ang ating kagalang-galang Kongresista Marcoleta. Maaari natin sisihin ng isang ahensya. Maaaring bukas, ituwid nila ang kamalian. Subalit, kung hindi po natin pupunahin tuwi-tuwi na, palagian natin tayong mga mambabatas at kinatawan ng ating mga iba't ibang mga distrito. mga party list ng ating bansa. Kailangan tayong manguna. We are leaders. And as I say always, we are not dealers. So we must lead our nation to its proper direction. History is the best teacher. Culture is the soul of a nation. If we do not value history and culture, then we are lost as a nation. This representation, Mr. Speaker, is committed to continuously remind all of us. As we showed during our term as mayor, we constructed that monument in memory of a great Japanese who came to the Philippines. We constructed the monument of a great Antiqueño, Evelio Javier, who defended the ballot in the most crucial times of our nation's narrow path towards democracy. We also honored the memory of a great Filipino, Ninoy Aquino. Some people now denigrate him the way they are denigrating Jesse Robredo. But to people like me, a humble Filipino like me, I will always cherish Filipinos who come this way and during their lifetime offered themselves to defend what is already ours as a God-given right. The Filipino, the greatest man on this planet Earth. We must now stand pat on that and defend that particular notion. We are a great people. We're a great nation. But if we don't honor our flag, we are nothing. So we must all take note of this. Pagtulong-tulungan natin, Mr. Speaker, then the agencies concerned, the National Commission on Culture and the Arts, the National Historical Commission, the local government of Manila, the national government itself. President Duterte should take note of this. Without history and culture, there is nothing we can be proud of. Kaya sana po nakatulong ako sa pagbubukas ng inyong isipan na tayong lahat ay magtulungan. Again, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Congressman Marcoleta.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Lito Atienza and its interpellation to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the visitors of Representative Federico Sandoval II. So may we request the visitors to please stand once their names are called. Vice Mayor Jenny Sandoval, Grace Torres, Payapa Ona, Director Jose Francia, Director Amparo Policarpio, Director Merlita P. Garcia, Director Rafael Gotuaco, Chapter Administrator Maria Joana Rosete, Luis Alog. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of the visitors of Honorable Kaka Bagao, LGBT organizations from Lagablab Network and supporters, namely UP Babaylan, College of St. Benilde Bihay, Piño Kasarian, Babaylanes, Galang, Metro Manila Pride, TLF Share, Rainbow Rights, LGBT Bar of the Philippines, LGBT Chamber of Commerce Akbayan, Ateneo Graduate School, UP School of Statistics Student Council, Buklod CSSP, Big Kiss UPM, Pantay Philippine Anti-Discrimination Alliance of Youth Leaders, UP Alianza, and Psychological Association of the Philippines. They came to visit. Those are the visitors of our Honorable Kaka Bagao.
The visitors of Congressman Ricky Sandoval and Representative Kaka Bagao, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to call the roll.
Secretary General, you are directed to call the roll of members.
Roll call of members, Honorable Representatives. Abad, Abaya, Abayon, Abilianosa, Abu, Abueg, Acharon, Akop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agaraw, Agabaw, Aglipay Villar, Albano, Alcala, Alejano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Andaya, Angara Castillo, Antonino, Antonio, Aragones, Arbizon, Arcillas, Arenas, Atienza, Aumentado, Bagaw, Bagaching, Bagilat, Banal, Barbers, Barsaga, Batawil, Batucabe, Bautista Bandigan, Belaro, Belmonte Feliciano, Belmonte Jose Christopher, Belmonte Ricardo, Benitez, Bernos, Bertiz, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bulilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo Anthony, Bravo Maravida, Brosas, Bulot Bigtang, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto Rubiano, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cari, Casilaw, Castelo, Caso Franz, Caso Fredenil, Catamco, Cayetano, Celeste, Serapica, Cerilles, Chavez, Chipeco, Coanco, Juliantes, Cortés, Cortuna, Cosalan, Crisólogo, Cuba, Cuaresma, Cueva, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, De Vera, Defensor, Del Mar, Del Rosario, De Los Montalia, de Maporo Abdullah, de Maporo Khalid, Duabit, Durano, Di, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Eusebio, Evardone, Fariñas, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Feriol, Floirendo, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Fentebelia, Garbin, Garcia Gwendolyn, Garcia Jose, Garcia Albano, Garin Richard, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Heron, Goana Cristina, Gomart, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Alexandria, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Fernando, Goriseta, Gulyas, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Alusos, Javier, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lagman, Lanete, Laugan, Lasatin, Liachon, Lee, Limkaychong, Lobrigat, Lopez Benur, Lopez Carlo, Lopez Manuel, Loyola, Macapagal-Arroyo, Madrona, Maceda, Malapitan, Manalo, Mangawang, Mangudodato Suarto, Mangudodato Sajid, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matugas, Miliana, Mending, Mendoza, Mercado, Mirasol, Montoro, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Carlo, Nolasco, Nunez Maleñaon, Waminal, Ocampo, Olivares, Ong Edwin, Ong Henry, Ortega Pablo, Ortega Vini, Pacquiao, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panganiban, Manotes, Papandayan, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Primicia Sagabas, Kimbo, Rodasa, Ramiresato, Ramos, Relampagos, Revilla, Rowapuno, Robes, Rocamora, Rodriguez Isidro, Rodriguez Maximo, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Romualdo, Roqueari, Roque Rogelio, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sahali, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Salon, Sambar, Sandoval, Santos Recto, Sarmiento Cesar, Sarmiento Edgar, Saviliano, Sema, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez, Si Alvarado, Tambunting, Tan Angelina, Tan Milagrosa, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves, Chanco, Ting, Tiño, Tolentino, Treñas, Tugna, Tupas, Turabi Nataman, Ti, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Unico, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Uy Barreta, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Vilarde, Velasco, Velasco Catera, Veloso, Vergara, Villaperte, Villanueva, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Villarin, Vilago, Yap Arthur, Yap Milesio, Yap Victor, Yu, Samora Mar Carmen, Samora Ronaldo, Sarate, Subiri. Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 213 members responded to the call.
213. With 213 members present, the chair declares a quorum. Majority Leader.
Sir Speaker, may we recognize the guests of the gentleman from Manila Teachers Party List, the Honorable Virgilio Lacson, and the gentleman from the Lone District of Malabon, the Honorable Federico Sandoval. They are from the Red Cross Malabon chapter, including Miss Diane Ko.
The guest of Representative Lacson and Representative Ricky Sandoval, please rise to be recognized. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up business under our calendar. Mr. Speaker, I would like to reiterate my motion. I move that we take up business under our calendar.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up House Bill number 5240, reported in Committee Report number 167 by the Committee on Land Use. And please direct the Secretary General to read the title of this measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read the said bill.
House Bill number 5240, an act instituting a national land use and management policy providing the implementing mechanisms, appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr.
Majority
Speaker,
Leader.
for this measure, I move that we consider the explanatory note as the sponsorship speech.
There's a motion. Any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move, there being no interpellations, Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments for both of that committee and individual.
Is there an objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
There being no amendments, Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 5240.
Is there any objection? Okay, those who are in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5240 is hereby approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 4982 as reported in Committee Report number 101. And please direct the Secretary General to read the title of the measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read House Bill 4982.
House Bill number 4982, an act prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or expression, and providing penalties therefore.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there any objection? The Chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Committee on Women and Gender Equality, the lady from Diwa Party List, the Honorable Emeline Aglipay-Villar. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Emeline Aglipay-Villar is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When our islands were a colony of Spain, Filipinos had few rights under the law, and even fewer in practice. We were seen as lazy, even as we were required to provide weeks of forced labor to the Spanish government. For much of our life as a colony, only those of Spanish blood could reside in Manila. Only those of Spanish blood freely received education or tax exemptions. And Filipinos, merely because of their blood, were required to make physical gestures of submission if we met a friar or even an ordinary Spaniard. When the Americans took over, we Filipinos were frequently portrayed in the media as savages who would benefit greatly from the civilization that they would bring us. To this day, Filipino roles in foreign media are most often that of stereotypes or punchlines meant to accentuate the few characteristics of our culture that have trickled into contextless worldwide consciousness. Our nation and our people as a whole have long been the targets of discriminatory practices, of blind prejudice displayed with violence in word and in deed. At no time and in no place was this mistreatment warranted or based on any reasonable explanation to be found in science or morality. Anti-Filipino sentiment was never about the truth and never about us. Instead, it was always about our oppressors, their need to feel superior, their insecurity when faced with something new and different than what they'd been used to. their desire to oppress and exploit us to further their own ends. Race, nationality, appearance, none of these have any impact on our individual capabilities, our talents, our ability to excel in every range of human endeavor when given a fair chance. I think I can safely say that the majority of us here today can agree with that, and I ask that majority to apply that same logic, those same principles, to the bill at hand, to the issue of discrimination on the basis of sex, orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, or SOGIE. I am proud to stand here today to sponsor House Bill number 4982, the SOGIE Equality Act, a consolidation of an array of bills that seek to protect some of the most vulnerable citizens of our society. That there is a dire need for legislation against discrimination based on SOGIE should be all the more evident today in our interconnected world, where abusive language can assault our senses at every level, from casual conversation to online comments to insensitive remarks from those in positions of authority. SOGIE rights are human rights, but many of those who spit on those rights question the very humanity of those who possess sexual orientation, gender identity, sex, or gender expression that is different from their own. It is unfortunately a common flaw of human nature to debase those who are other, who are different. But as common as this is in human beings, it is not a flaw that should be found in the state. The state instead must provide the protection necessary to ensure that its people are protected from injustice brought about by these biases, whether carried out individually or institutionally. The SOGIE Equality Act creates and codifies such protections in a manner that, in a fashion similar to the Bill of Rights and the Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, allows it to serve as an efficient bulwark against abuse and an efficient tool in the punishment thereof. To be more specific, the SOGIE Equality Act does the following. It provides concise, conclusive definitions for sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex that also cover terms such as intersex and asexuality. It provides concise definitions of discrimination, marginalization, hate crimes, and stigma in a manner that allows the same to be actionable within the law enforcement and legal systems. It provides an inclusive list of discriminatory practices that cover the most common acts of discrimination based on prejudice against SOGIE. It makes explicit that discriminatory practices can be performed through any medium, including telecommunications devices and the internet, which prescribes some of the most common forms of discriminatory practices prevalent in modern times. It prescribes parents from inflicting physical or emotional harm on their children because of SOGIE issues. It protects the right to privacy of individuals, and in so doing, protects both the expression and non-expression of the same. It sanctions government officials who do not act in accordance with their duty to investigate, prosecute, or otherwise act on a complaint under this bill. It provides penalties for those convicted of discriminatory acts, a fine of not less than 100,000 pesos, but not more than 500,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 1 year, but not more than 6 years, or both, at the discretion of the court. It makes explicit that discriminatory acts need not be motivated by bias, prejudice, or hate of SOGIE to be illegal, by making such motivations into special aggravating circumstances rather than elements of the offense. It provides for the women and children's desks in all police stations shall now become the Women, Children, and Gender Rights Protection Desk. It mandates the state to pursue initiatives and programs that seek to establish and maintain an environment free of stigma and discrimination. It encourages positive and empowering portrayal of LGBT by media. And it creates a congressional oversight committee to monitor the compliance of public institutions to the provisions of the bill. The protections provided by the SOGIE Equality Act are important and essential because SOGIE rights are human rights. In a perfect world, being human itself would be enough to guarantee everyone the right to be treated fairly and with dignity. In a perfect world, all those who object to prejudice against Filipinos because of our very identity should object to prejudice against people on SOGIE grounds. Because a person's sex, orientation, gender identity, and gender expression is as much part of them as their race or the color of their skin. It is not a perfect world, but we can make it a better one by passing the SOGIE Equality Act, because we as a nation must stand against prejudice in every form or none at all. To do only less, to care only if we are the victims or if they believe as we do, is hypocrisy and a betrayal of our obligations as representatives of this people. Stand for a better world and pass the SOGIE Equality Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize the lady from the Lone District of Dinagat Islands, the Honorable Kaka Bagao.
Representative Kaka Bagao of Dinagat Island is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. The Anti-Discrimination Bill, now known as the SOGIE or Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity and Expression Equality Bill, was first filed in the 11th Congress by Akbayan Party List Representative Eta Rosales. Under her stewardship, the bill was approved on third and final reading in the 12th Congress. In the 11th Congress. But in the 12th Congress, it was not enacted into law when it was stalled in the Senate. In 2006, during the 13th Congress, the proposed measure reached second reading. Now, 11 years after, we find ourselves in the same position. It has been more than a decade since the bill that seeks to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity and expression has seen the light of this session hall. Mula po nung ako ay unang pumasok sa Kongreso bilang kinatawan ng Akbayan, hanggang ngayon sa aking 2 termino bilang kinatawan ng Dinagat Islands, kasama ng iba pang mga naniniwala sa pantay na karapatan mula sa ating hanay, walang humpay po nating itinulak ang pagpasa sa SOGIE Equality Bill. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, ngayon ay mas abot kamay na ang pag-aproba sa isang panukalang noon pa man ay dapat nang isinabatas. Halos 2 dekada na po ang ating hinintay. Halos 2 dekada na po ang hinintay ng mga kapwa Pilipino nating nanonood sa atin ngayon. Sa mahabang panahong yan, tiyak ko na mas nabubuksan na ang mga puso't isipan ng ating mamamayan sa pangangailangang ipagtanggol ang ating mga kapwa-tao. Sa katunayan, nitong 2013 lang, ayon sa SWS survey, 85 or 85% ng mga Pilipino ang naniniwalang may karapatang maprotektahan ang mga LGBT mula sa diskriminasyon. Pero sa totoo lang, maliit na dahilan lamang yan para makumbinsi tayo. Ang mas matimbang na rason dapat ay magmula sa ating batayang prinsipyo, mga kasama sa Kongreso. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, hihiram po ako ng isang salita mula sa mga millennials, ang salitang hugot. Lagyan po natin ng hugot mula sa ating mga puso ang pagboto para sa mahalagang panukalang ito. May mga mamamayang natanggal sa trabaho dahil lamang nalaman sa opisina nila na sila ay umiibig sa kapwa nila lalaki o babae. May mga kabataang pinapaalis sa paaralan o kaya pinapapirma ng kontratang nagsasabing hindi sila kikilos na parang bakla o lesbiana. Kung hindi, tatanggalin sila at parurusahan. Payag po ba tayo dito, Mr. Speaker? Mga kasama, carry lang ba sa atin ang ganitong klase ng sistema? Papayag po ba tayo na ang tingin sa pagiging LGBT ay isang sakit o isang social disorder? Sa mga kongresistang narito ngayon at nakikinig na merong staff members na LGBT, marami po sila at araw-araw natin silang kasama. Mukha po ba silang may sakit? Sa mga narito ngayon na may mga anak, kapatid, pinsan, pamangkin, apo o kaibigang LGBT, papayag ba kayo na mangyari sa mga mahal nyo sa buhay ang dinanas ng ibang panlalait at pananakit? Pero ito po ang realidad, Mr. Speaker. Mga kasama, hindi pa rin tinatrato ng may pagkakapantay-pantay ang mga mamamayang nagkataon lamang ay nabibilang sa LGBT community, lalo tigit sa mga nasa may hirap na komunidad. Kahit sinasabi pa ng 85% ng mga Pilipino na dapat silang protektahan sa pamamagitan ng batas, walang saysay ito kung hindi tayo kikilos para gampanan ang ating tungkulin para sa ating mamamayan at sa ating kapwa-tao. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, nasa punto tayo ngayon kung kailan nabibigyan natin ng pag-asa ang mga kapwa nating matagal nang inaalipusta at tinatapakan sa ating lipunan. Ang SOGIE Equality Bill, kapag ito ay isinabatas, ay hindi magdadagdag ng bago o espesyal na karapatan. Ang hinihingi lamang nito ay panindigan at isakatuparan ang batayang mga karapatan ng mga kapwa nating tao at kapwa nating Pilipino. Mula preambulo hanggang sa mga prinsipyo, tinitiyak ng ating saligang batas ang pagkakapantay-pantay. Nakapaloob din dito ang pagpapahalaga sa dignidad ng bawat tao at pagtitiyak ng buong paggalang sa karapatang pantao. Sinasabi ng mga tutol sa panukalang ito, babae at lalaki lang daw ang kinikilala ng saligang batas. Oo, sinabi talaga ito ng isa ating kasama sa isang committee hearing noong 15th Congress pa. Kung ganun, ano po ang nais niyang sabihin? Na dapat bumuo na lang ng sariling bansa ang mga LGBT? Huwag po sana nating paikutin ang diwa ng ating konstitusyon at ng ating mga batas. Ang kinikilala ng mga ito ay ang lahat ng mamamayan. Sabi nga sa social media, don't me. Sinasabi ng mga tutol sa panukalang ito, magkakaroon ng same-sex marriage kapag isinabatas ang SOGIE Equality Bill. Minsan, basa-basa po tayo pag may time. Wala pong anumang probisyon na nagsasabi na magkakaroon ng same-sex marriage sa panukalang batas na ito. Ibang usapin po yun. Huwag po nating palawakin ang imahinasyon sa paggawa ng sariling interpretasyon. Kalma lang po tayo. Tungkol ito sa pagtatanggol sa mga LGBT mula sa pananakit, pang-aalipusta, at pagkakait ng mga oportunidad na nagbibigay sa isang individual na mamamayan, access to education and healthcare, security of tenure, delivery of basic goods and services, safety in public spaces, at iba pa. Sinasabi po ng mga tutol sa panukalang ito, matatakpan daw ang religious freedom nila kapag naipatupad ito. Una po sa lahat, matagal nang mayroong proteksyon ang kalayaan sa pananampalataya sa ilalim ng batas. Tama lang na mag-exercise tayo ng religious freedom. Ang mali ay kapag sinasabi na okay lang manakit ng isang kapwa-taong tingin nila ay makasalanan. Yun po ang susubukang pigilan ng SOGIE Equality Bill. Buksan po natin ang ating mga puso't isipan. Huwag po nating sabihin hindi na kailangan ng mga LGBT ang pagkakaroon ng batas na magtatanggol sa mga karapatan nila dahil meron ng existing laws na gagawa nito. Hindi po ito totoo. Habang may mga batang sinasaktan ng kanilang mga magulang, binubuhusan ng kumukulong tubig, nilulunod sa drum para talikuran ang pagiging bakla, nire-rape ng tatay para lang maramdaman na mali ang umibig, na maling umibig ang babae sa kapwa babae. kailangan po natin ng SOGIE Equality Act. At habang may mga mamamayang takot matanggal sa trabaho, kaya pinipili nilang hindi ihayag ang kanilang pagkatao at kung sino ang minamahal nila, kailangan po natin ang SOGIE Equality Act. At habang may mga transgenders na hindi makaihi sa pampublikong banyo na isang basic human function na may kinalaman sa kalusugan dahil sa takot na masita o masaktan, kailangan po natin ang SOGIE Equality Act. Napakarami ko pa pong gustong sabihin mga insidente ng diskriminasyon, pero mas maganda po siguro kung pakinggan na lang natin ang sasabihin ng mga mamamayan.
Masama na. Paulit-ulit siyang binubuli ng teacher niya. Pinapahiya siya. Tuwing papasok pa lang siya.
Tapos may dumadating na death threat sa kanya. May mga nakakuha siya.
Lagi siyang sinusuntok, hinahampas ng habang nasa loob siya ng sara.
Yung buhok mo, hindi ka na LGBT. Bakit kailangan ko? Nakakabobo ba yung buhok namin? Ba't sinisip ko kay siguro dito ka na sa akin? Ulit ka tayo. Ang nakalalaki ako, balita. May boyfriend ako.
Kaya hindi sila nakapasok kasi they are not in a proper dress code. Ang basis kasi sa gate namin is yung boses and then yung Adam's apple and then yung shoulder.
Hindi mo naman kailangan na ipakita sa buong mundo ang katayuan mo ngayon sa pamagitan ng pag-iiba ng anyo. Napakarami na lesbian dyan na hindi nagbabago na kailangan pa ba na ilahad mo na ito ako, lalaki na ako ngayon, iba na ang tsura ko.
Natagpo ang patay at tagtag ng saksak ang isang bading sa loob ng kanyang apartment sa Caloocan City. Ang pagpatay sa biktima tila hindi nalalayo sa kaso ng ibang biktima ng gay hate crime.
Awa-awang sinapit ng isang bading sa Nueva Vizcaya na lakno sa kanyang balat ng bigla na lang buhusan ng mainit na tubig ng ama na hindi raw tanggap ang kanyang pagkatao.
Nang pumasok sa kwarto para linisin, nagulat ang staff ng lodge na makita ang wala ng buhay na si Jennifer sa loob ng banyo at nakasubsob ang ulo sa inodoro.
Isang araw, nung papasok siya sa compound namin, tinawag siya nung tao at ito'y pinatong ang kamay sa kanyang ulo at nag-pray over.
Nahitabo ni Saong usa ka miga na transhuman. Gipagamit siya sa CR sa PWD siyang sa administration siyang gitrabahoan. Kay dili ipagamit ang babay na CR.
Tinatawag yung aking apo na ang kanyang suot ay kaiba sa wear ng mga pambabae. Yung guidance na sinasabi niya, bobo ka, napakaganda mo pa naman, hindi mo ginagamit ang pinag-aralan mo. Babae ba yan? Suot ba ng babae yan?
Bali, parang disgrace doon. Mamili kasi may bakla sa pamilya nila. Hindi siya katanggap-tanggap ng pamilya niya. Lagi daw siya sinasakot, binubugbog ng tsuhin niya at kuya niya. Parang yung tingin kasi nila, habang binubugbog mo yung tao, habang binubugbog mo yung bakla, pwedeng maging lalaki.
So yung orgmate ko, nung high school siya, na pumunta siya sa isang party, pang high school party. Dumating yung professor nila, tapos may napainom sa kanya. Pagkatapos nun, hinaharas siya, pinapalo ng bote, tinuduroan, at pinasukan pa ng Lego sa puwet.
Nakita ko kung paano siya tratuhin ng tatay niya, kung paano siya hatawin ng kahoy at pagsalita na hindi maganda.
Nainis din ako at nagalit. Ano akala niya sa aking anak? Isa ba siyang masamang espiritu?
Nagsampa sila ng kaso, pero hindi sineryoso ng korte, ng mga polis. Pinagtatawanan lang. Kaya ngayon, binitawan na lang nila. Para nako, nalainan yung kugmayo na sakitan. Kaya para nako, It's very demoralizing and very degrading.
Parang pakiramdam ko, malayong-malayo na yung loob niya sa akin. Sabi ko nga, dapat ako ang lola, ako yung magtanggol sa apo ko.
Bilang kaibigan niya, nalungkot ako, nandismaya ako kasi ultimong pamilya niya, hindi siya katanggap-tanggap, hindi siya matanggap. Bakit ganon? Bakit may nangyayaring ganon? Parang, krimen ba ang maging bakla?
Kung yung mismong pamilya ay hindi maintindihan kung bakit siya ganon, sa malamang sa hindi, yung buong nasa paligid, sa komunidad, mas lalong hindi maiintindihan kung bakit siya naging bakla. Naawa ako sa kanya kasi noong mga panahon na yun, dyan na rin yung tagsibol nung paghilig ko sa pakikialam sa lipunan. Inaalam kung bakit may mga sektor na naaapi. Partikular yung mga bakla, tomboy, na ang tawag sa ngayon ay LGBT.
I hope that one day the LGBT community will be accepted and people will be open-minded, and that the usage of the CR shouldn't be an issue.
Bigyan ng kalayaan ng mga LGBT. Sana suportahan sila talaga.
Tanong siguro, ano yung hindi maganda? Hindi magandang nagawa nila at bakit hindi niyo sila matanggap?
Ang masasabi ko lang ay huwag matakot at ipaglaban mo pag merong abuso o diskriminasyon, mapa-LGBT ka man o hindi.
Mas maganda kung paliliwanagan mo at para magkaroon sila ng kaalaman tungkol sa mundo ng LGBT. Lahat tayo pantay-pantay sa mata ng Diyos.
Kailangang isabuhay ng bawat tao na kilalanin ang mga karapatan ng mga taong ito. Kung ako yung tatanungin, ang ideal na lipunan sa akin ay may pagkakapantay-pantay. Hindi ito usapin kung siya ay bakla, tomboy, straight o hindi. Ang importante ay ang pangunahing dapat tingnan, siya ay tao.
Mr. Speaker, mga kasama, ang puso at sentro ng panukalang ito ay hindi lang pagkakapantay-pantay, kundi pagmamahal sa kapwa natin. Mr. Speaker, mga kasama ko dito sa Kongreso, noong unang termino ko po bilang kongresista hanggang ngayon, paulit-ulit ko pong sinasabi at hindi po ako mag-asawang sabihin nito. The time for the Anti-Discrimination Law, the time for the SOGIE Equality Act is now. Ipaglaban po natin ang pagkakapantay-pantay at pagmamahal sa ating kapwa. Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon.
Majority Leader.
I move for suspension, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended. Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next to sponsor the measure is the distinguished lady from the 1st District of Bataan. I move that we recognize the Honorable Geraldine Roman.
Representative Geraldine Roman is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues and fellow equality champs in the 17th Congress. I speak to you today not as the representative of the 1st District of Bataan, nor as a colleague or a friend. I speak not as the first transgender woman to be elected into the House of Representatives. Today, I speak to you as a human being who is appealing on behalf of her brothers and sisters in the LGBT community for equality. I am appealing for equal rights and equal protection and equal opportunities under the law. There is a need to pass the SOGIE Equality Bill. This has been shown and explained to you by my fellow equality champ, Representative Emma Glipay-Villar, and by Representative Kakabagao. Despite the existence of some laws that supposedly guarantee that all citizens of our country be given legal protection, equal legal protection and opportunities in life, members of the LGBT community are still suffering from discrimination simply because of their sexual orientation and gender identity expression. We have brothers and sisters who continue to be denied the chance to study, to find jobs, to grow in their careers, to avail of basic government services, and even denied access to commercial and public establishments simply because they happen to be LGBT. As a result, they are subjected to humiliation. They are subjected to physical and verbal abuse. They are scorned at and mocked. They are judged, marginalized, and denied the opportunity to develop their full potential and become productive, law-abiding citizens of our country. They are deprived of their dignity as human beings and as citizens of our country. Whether many or few, these cases should not and cannot be tolerated. I know that many of you understand and agree with me that there is something intrinsically unjust in these situations. There are many of us, in fact, in this Congress. For the first time in the past 18 years, this measure has gained the highest number of co-authors. Right now, we are around 150, more than one-half of the total number of congressmen and congresswomen. Starting with our Speaker, Pantaleon Alvarez, our Majority Floor Leader, Rodolfo Fariñas, several Deputy Speakers. We have we have more than one-half of the total number of congressmen and congresswomen. And I'm talking about congressmen and congresswomen who come from diverse religious and cultural backgrounds. I'm talking about colleagues who have different political affiliations and different ideologies, and yet have decided to unite and support this bill whose main objective is simply to protect the rights of citizens of our country who just happen to be LGBT. We have the need to pass this bill. We have the means to combat discrimination and penalize those who commit these acts, while sending a clear message to society that it is not right to discriminate against your fellow human being on the basis of his or her sexual orientation and gender identity. But for me, what is important about this bill is also the message that we are sending to society and our objective of effecting a paradigm shift in our nation. We want our country to become an inclusive society where people will be given the freedom to live happy, free, and equal. My dear colleagues, we have the power to help our brothers and sisters and the LGBT community. We have the opportunity to make history and break the 18 years of long wait. We have this unique chance to uplift our brothers and sisters. What are we waiting for? There is nothing to fear. The sky will not fall, and the sun will continue to rise even when this bill is passed. There is nothing to lose if we pass this bill. And yes, there is everything to gain as a society. My dear colleagues, I know my life has been very fortunate. I have been privileged because I count on the support and the love of my family, my friends, my community, and I count on the love and respect of you, my colleagues. But remember this, not all enjoy the same fortune nor privilege. Not everyone has been given this chance to study abroad as I have, and to avail of the civil liberties afforded to me in the countries where I once lived. What do I feel about this? I'm simply grateful to all of you. Nagpapasalamat ako sa inyo dahil tinanggap niyo ko kung sino ako, hindi niyo inalintana ang aking kasarian. You welcomed me with open arms, and you have treated me as an equal, with respect and dignity. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I want to request all of you, to you equality champions, please remain steadfast. Konting kembot na lang at gagawa tayo ng kasaysayan. I want to request to you kung ano yung pagtanggap nyo sa akin, ang pagmamahal at respetong binigay nyo sa akin, palawakin nyo pa po upang yakapin ang ating mga kapwa Pilipino na nagkataon lamang na naging LGBT. Umaasa po ako. Huwag niyo po sana akong biguin. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 4982.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up on second reading House Bill number 5000 as reported in Committee Report number 102 by the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries. And for this purpose, please direct our Secretary General to read the title of the measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read the Committee Report 500.
House Bill number 5000, an act providing for the regulation and supervision of payment systems.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries, the Honorable Ben Ivardone.
Representative Ben Ivardone is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, it is my honor to sponsor for this chamber's consideration House Bill 5000, principally authored by former President and now Deputy Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, entitled Payment Systems Act, which provides for the regulation and supervision of payment systems in the Philippines. Mr. Speaker, payment systems are a vital part of the economic and financial infrastructure of the country. They provide the critical networks in financial systems, enabling a variety of financial transactions to be cleared and settled. The volume and magnitude of financial transactions passing through such payment networks justify the need for payment systems to be safe and efficient. It is also indispensable that they are reliable, as it plays a key role in building public confidence and helping maintain financial stability. While the growth and development of payment systems are indicative of their valuable contribution to the movement of funds in the economy, their operations can also give rise to risks, which, if left unaddressed, can adversely impact financial stability and the economy as a whole. By linking financial institutions together for the purpose of transferring monetary claims and settling payment obligations efficiently, payment systems become channels through which financial risks can be transmitted across financial institutions and markets. For example, Mr. Speaker, any failure of a bank as a participant in a payment and settlement system may have system-wide consequences, since such failure will be passed on from one bank to another and from one settlement transaction to another. It could also give rise to externalities or adverse consequences that go beyond the direct participants in a particular payment system. Mr. Speaker, there are already a number of central banks which have mandates to oversee payment and settlement systems. Among them are Bank Indonesia, Bank Negara Malaysia, Central Bank of Myanmar, National Bank of Cambodia, Bank of Laos, People's Democratic Republic, Monetary Authority of Singapore, Deutsche Bundesbank, Bank of France, Banco de España, Bank of Japan, and State Bank of Vietnam. Unlike the central banks mentioned, however, Mr. Speaker, the powers of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, as provided in its charter and other special laws, do not extend to entities which operate payment systems. Neither is the Bangko Sentral granted the power to oversee payment systems in the country. Such authorities are among those that this bill intends to grant to the Bangko Sentral in order that payment systems in the country operate in a manner that will support financial stability, economic development, and protect the consumers. As the global financial landscape evolves, so as innovations in payment systems. In the Philippines alone, we may not be aware, but we are already experiencing the benefits of innovations in the field of payment systems, even as payment channels and schemes continue to expand. These include point-of-sale terminals through which we use our debit and credit cards, online payment platforms through which we transact purchases of goods and services, and mobile payment platforms through which we are enabled to move funds to our intended beneficiaries and the most popular bayad centers, among others. As payment systems expand in the country, the non-banking sector plays a significant role in the development of new payment instruments, platforms, and schemes. While these innovations bring about benefits to financial consumers, there are also accompanying risks which, if left unaddressed, may bring more harm than what is expected. For example, in the sphere of activities of a non-banking sector, there have been incidents where consumers have been left with less than adequate means, or at times, none at all, of addressing their concerns regarding retail payments in view of lack of appropriate legal and regulatory framework for payment systems. Thus, Mr. Speaker, there is a need to provide for a clear and appropriate legal and regulatory framework that would promote transparency as well as ensure the safety, efficiency, and reliability of payment systems, taking into account all the market players and participants in payment systems. In addition, a well-founded, clear, and appropriate legal and regulatory framework on the national payment system will also provide the needed public confidence as interests of consumers will be protected. This will in turn contribute in spurring significant growth in usage and take-up of electronic payments in the country, thereby enabling the country to take advantage of the economic and societal benefits and opportunities that increased electronic payments bring to an economy. For the foregoing reasons, Mr. Speaker, the bill proposes that the state shall promote the safe, efficient, and reliable operation of payment systems in the Philippines through the Bangko Sentral in order to control possible systemic risk and provide an environment conducive to the sustainable growth of the economy. The bill specifically seeks to provide the authority to the Bangko Sentral to overseeing the payment systems in the Philippines and exercise supervisory and regulatory powers for the purpose of ensuring the stability and effectiveness of the monetary and financial system. In the exercise of this authority, the Bangko Sentral shall be guided by internationally accepted standards and practices. To ensure proper implementation of this mandate, the bill requires that the Bangko Sentral shall coordinate with other regulators and other concerned agencies to avoid gaps, inefficiencies, duplication, and inconsistencies in the regulation of other systems that are related to or interconnected with payment systems, and shall endeavor to coordinate with regulators or overseas payment systems of other countries to facilitate safe, efficient, and reliable cross-border payment transactions. Further, Mr. Speaker, as a means of encouraging compliance with the law, Section 21 of the bill provides that whenever a person or entity willfully violates this act, rule, regulation, directives, or orders duly promulgated by the Monetary Board pursuant to this act, that person or entity shall be punished by fine or imprisonment, or both, at the discretion of the court. In this regard, it bears stressing that while being mindful of the need to remain responsive with the fast-paced innovation in payment systems, the rules, regulations, directives, or orders to be promulgated by the Monetary Board shall at all times be pursuant to and in accordance with its authority under this Act. This is expected not only to deter violations, but also to enable the central bank to effectively perform its responsibilities in limiting the prospect of financial contagion through the promotion of a safe and efficient national payment system. In sum, Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, the development of a safe and efficient national payment system has relevance to the monetary policy, financial ability, and overall economic development of the economy. It is thus imperative that the Bangko Sentral as the central monetary authority provided in the Constitution, has the ability to exercise oversight functions and, if necessary, apply a certain degree of supervision over the operations of payment systems with systemic importance in order to timely address possibilities of financial contagion within the system. Mr. Speaker, to further demonstrate the merits of the bill, may I request for the showing of a short video presentation.
PSA stands for the Payment Systems Act. With the PSA, the state shall promote through the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas the safe, efficient, and reliable operation of payment systems in order to control systemic risk and provide an environment conducive to the sustainable growth of the economy. So how in particular will the PSA affect Filipinos like Juan? Juan is a typical Filipino. He goes to work daily using public transportation and pays fares using a stored value card. He receives his salary through his ATM account. He buys groceries using either his debit or credit card. He pays his bills regularly through a payment center. He sends money to his mother in the province through a remittance agent. Every once in a while, he would check the internet for new and exciting items which he can easily purchase online via payment gateway. During holidays, he would go home to his province and pay his toll electronically. Indeed, Juan is a typical Filipino who engages in several payment activities from day to day. But do you know that most of his payment activities are actually not regulated? Still, some are partly regulated. When we say regulate, it typically means to control or maintain a certain rate or condition, like in the case of a machine or process, such that it is able to operate properly. Similarly, rules and regulations are imposed on some institutions and activities to ensure that they operate in a safe and sound manner. So, when we said that some of the payment activities of one are not regulated, it means that the persons or companies providing the payment service can actually make their own policies and rules without conscious effort of ensuring safety, efficiency, soundness, consumer protection, reliability, under the PSA, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shall oversee the payment systems in the Philippines. By exercising its supervisory and regulatory powers, it can establish standards, rules, and regulations to ensure that every Filipino enjoys a payment environment that is safe, efficient, sound, reliable, and with adequate consumer protection.
With that, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries earnestly seeks the approval of House Bill 5000. Thank you. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
There being no interpellations, Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, with the permission of the sponsor, Mr. Speaker, this representation would like to propose for some amendments to the House Bill 500, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker.
The sponsor? Are you agreeable?
We'd like to hear the proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. On page 2, line 7, section 3 of letter F, to replace the number 18 with number 17, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, may we know if the sponsor will accept this amendment?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. On page 2, Mr. Speaker, line 25, section 3, letter N, after
Mr. Speaker.
such purpose, sorry.
Sa isa lang. I move for suspension, Mr. Speaker.
One amendment. Session suspended. Session resumed. Majority Leader.
So, Mr. Speaker, again, may we know if the amendment proposed by the gentleman is acceptable to the sponsor?
Acceptance.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve the following amendments. That on page 2, line 7, section 3, subsection F, we replace number 18 with the number 17. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there an objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Sponsor, I would like to amend page 2, on page 2, line 25, section 3, letter N, after the word such, add a comma, and the words or when there is necessary to protect the public interest, Mr. Speaker.
Sir, may we know if this is acceptable to the sponsor?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment, that on page 2, line 25, section 3, subsection N, after the word such, we add a comma and the words or when there is necessity to protect the public interest, in closed quotations. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In section 5, paragraphs A and B on page 3, lines 14 to 18 are hereby amended to read as follows. Letter A, determine a payment system to be designated payment system if it finds that the payment system poses or has the potential to pose a systemic risk or when there is a necessity to protect public interest. Any such determination by Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shall be conclusive. The designation of a payment system by the Bangko Sentral shall be effective until revoked. The Bangko Sentral may revoke such designation if it finds the designated payment system no longer poses any systemic risk or it is no longer in the public interest that the system be designated. Mr. Chairman. Letter B, require the participants of the designated payment system to comply within a reasonable period with the provisions of this Act and its implementing rules and regulations, giving due consideration to the orderly transition of the operations of the newly designated payment system to ensure that it operates in a safe, efficient, and reliable manner. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, may we know if this is acceptable to the sponsor?
The committee accepts the proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment, that in section 5, paragraphs A and B on page 3, lines 14 to 18 are hereby amended to read as follows. A, determine a payment system to be designated payment system if it finds that the payment system poses or has the potential to pose a systemic risk or when there is necessity to protect the public interest. And any such determination by the Bangko Sentral shall be conclusive. The designation of a payment system by the Bangko Sentral shall be effective until revoked. The Bangko Sentral may revoke such designation if it finds that the designated payment system no longer poses any systemic risk or it is no longer in the public interest that the system be designated. Letter B, require the participants of the designated payment system to comply within a reasonable period with the provisions of this Act and its implementing rules and regulations, giving due consideration to the orderly transition of the operations of the newly designated payment system to ensure that it operates in a safe, efficient, and reliable manner. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Taiso, Mr. Chairman. On page 4, line 5, section 5, paragraph D, number 4, after the word loss, add the words is considered confidential, Mr. Speaker.
May we know if this is acceptable to the sponsor, Mr. Speaker?
The committee accepts, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment, that on page 4, line 5, section 5, subsection D4, after the word loss, add the words in open quotation, is considered confidential, closed quotation. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On page 5, line 17, section 10, replace the number 4 with number 3, Mr. Speaker.
May we know, Mr. Speaker, if this is acceptable to the sponsor?
The committee accepts, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment, that on page 5, line 17, section 10, we replace the number 4 with the number 3. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move also for the amendment, particularly on page 9, line 3, section 17, replace the word operations with the word activities, Mr. Speaker.
May we know if this is acceptable to the sponsor, Mr. Speaker?
The committee accepts, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that on page 9, line 3, section 17, we replace the word operations with the word activities.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move for the amendment, particularly on page 9, line 19, section 18, replace the number 17 with number 16, Mr. Speaker.
May we know, Mr. Speaker, if this is acceptable to the sponsor?
The committee accepts, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment. On page 9, line 19, section 18, we replace the number 17 with the number 16. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move for amendment, particularly on page 11, line 8, section 20, paragraph D and 1, to delete the word of between violated and or, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, may we know if this is acceptable to the sponsor?
The committee accepts the proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment. Page 11, line 8, section 20, subsection D, 1, we delete the word of between violated and or. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this representative would like to amend and insert a new section after section 21 to read as follows. Section 22, Mr. Speaker. Implementing rules and regulations. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shall promulgate the necessary rules and regulations for the effective implementation of this act. Mr. Speaker.
May we know, Mr. Speaker, if this amendment is acceptable to the sponsor?
The committee accepts, Mr. Speaker.
I therefore move that we approve the following amendment, that we insert a new section after section 21 that would read as follows. Open quotation. Section 22, implementing rules and regulations. The BSP shall promulgate the necessary rules and regulations for the effective implementation of this act. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, the succeeding sections are renumbered accordingly. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 5000 as amended. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Those who are in favor of House Bill 500 say aye.
Aye.
Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5000 is hereby approved on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up, likewise on second reading, House Bill number 5225, as contained in Committee Report number 164 by the Committee on Information and Communications Technology. And for this purpose, please direct our Secretary General to read the title of the measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read House Bill 5225.
House Bill number 5225, an act mandating the provision of free Wi-Fi internet access in public areas.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that for this measure, we consider the explanatory note as the sponsorship speech.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no interpellations, I move that we close the period of interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments that for the committee and likewise of the individual.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Gusto magpa-include as an author.
Gusto ko lang maging author niyan.
I-manifest mo.
Pwede ba i-manifest? Kailangan ko ba i-manifest?
Masa na nga tayo?
Individual amendments.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, before I move for approval, I'd like to manifest the interest of the Honorable Edward Maceda, the gentleman from Manila, to be included as a co-author of this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, with that, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 5225. I so move.
Those who are in favor of House Bill 5225, say aye. Those who are against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5225 is hereby approved on second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve Journal number 82 for the session on March 14, 2017. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up additional reference of business and please direct our Secretary General to read the titles and numbers of the measures.
The Secretary General is directed to read the resolutions.
Additional reference of business resolutions, House Resolution number 875, direct the appropriate committee to conduct an inquiry into the takeover of government housing units in Pandi and San Jose del Monte City, Bulacan, and San Benitez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution number 876, to conduct an inquiry into the latest study on the adverse effects of watching television and school readiness for children, Representative Castelo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution number 877, urging the Committee on Health to conduct an inquiry on the proposed renationalization of the 3 hospitals in the province of Marinduque, Representatives Velasco and Velasco Catera.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 880, directing Congress to investigate the propriety of the Zamboangas Provincial Ordinance number 216-68, Representative Manalo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution number 881, expressing the profound condolences of the House to the family of former Deputy Speaker Simeon A. Datamonong, Representatives Alvarez, Pareñas, and Suarez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 882, direct the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability to conduct an inquiry in regard to the use by the provincial government of Ilocos Norte of its shares from the excise taxes on locally manufactured Virginia-type cigarettes of Pareñas, Bondoc, and Gonzales.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 883, commending and congratulating Romero Duno, Representative Acharon.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports, report number 171 on House Bill number 5258.
To the Committee on Rules.
Report number 172 on House Bill number 5259.
To the Committee on Rules.
Report number 173 on House Bill number 5260.
To the Committee on Rules.
Report number 174 on House Resolution 878.
To the Committee on Rules.
Report number 175 on House Resolution 879.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 176 on House Bill number 5269.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up on second reading House Bill number 5241 as contained in Committee Report 168 of the Committee on Revision of Laws, and please direct our Secretary General to read the title of this measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read House Bill 5241.
House Bill number 5241, an act declaring December 8th of every year special non-working holiday in the entire country to commemorate the Feast of the Immaculate Conception of Mary, the principal patroness of the Philippines.
Majority
Speaker, I
Leader.
move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there an objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, for this measure, I move that we consider the explanatory note as the sponsorship speech.
Is there an objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no interpellations, I move that we close the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee and individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve House Bill number 5241 on second reading.
Those who are in favor of House Bill 5241 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5241 is approved on second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up on second reading House Bill number 5269 as contained in Committee Report number 176 by the Committee on Basic Education and Culture. And for this, please direct our Secretary General to read the title of the measure.
The Secretary General is directed to read House Bill 5269.
House Bill number 5269, an act institutionalizing the National School Feeding Program for public kindergarten elementary pupils and appropriating funds therefore.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship.
Is there an objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
For this measure, Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider the explanatory note as the sponsorship speech.
Is there an objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
There being no interpellations, I move that we close the period of debate and interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee and individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
There being no amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 5269.
Those in favor of House Bill 5269 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5269 is hereby approved on second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that in accordance with our rules governing inquiries in aid of legislation, I move that we refer the following House resolutions to the appropriate committees. First, House Resolution number 821 to the Committee on Agriculture and Food. House Resolution 823 to the Committee on Trade and Industry. House Resolution 824 to the Committee on Labor and Employment. House Resolution 828 to the Committee on Labor and Employment. House Resolution 830 to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. House Resolution 833 to the Committee on Transportation. House Resolution 837 to the Committee on Human Rights. House Resolution 838 to the Committee on Public Order and Safety. House Resolution 839 to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. House Resolution 840 to the Committee on National Defense and Security. House Resolution 882 to the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
May papasalamat ako sa 5225. I'll just make a manifestation. Papasalamat lang.
Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of a message from the Senate informing the House that the Senate has passed with amendments. House Bill number 4631. This is entitled An Act Renewing for Another 25 Years the franchise granted to GMA Network Incorporated. We had been advised that the Committee on Legislative Franchises, sponsor of House Bill number 4631, has no objections to these amendments of the Senate to the said House Bill. In accordance with the rules, I move that we concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill number 4631.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
May we know, Mr. Speaker, what is the pleasure of the chairman of the Committee on Games?
Thank you.
The Committee on Games, Representative Tambunting is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just would like to make a manifestation for 5225, which is approved. Gusto ko lang po sanang magpasalamat sa suporta po na binigay po ng aking mga kasamahan dito po sa Free Public Wi-Fi Bill na minungkahi ko po at ng aking mga kasamahan. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we are likewise in receipt of a message from the Senate informing the House that the Senate has passed with amendment House Bill number 4637 entitled An Act Extending for 25 Years the Franchise Granted to Smart Communications Incorporated, formerly Smart Information Technologies Incorporated, amending for the purpose of Republic Act number 7294, and we have been advised that the Committee on Legislative Franchises, which is the sponsor of House Bill number 4637, has no objections to the amendments of the Senate to the said House Bill. So in accordance with the rules, I move that we concur with the Senate amendments to House Bill number 4637.
Is there any objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up House Resolution number 881 and please direct our Secretary General to read the title of the measure of the resolution.
The Secretary General is directed to read House Bill 882, House Resolution 881.
House Resolution 881. Resolution expressing the profound condolences of the House of Representatives to the family of former Deputy Speaker Simeon A. Datumanong, representative of the 2nd District of Maguindanao, during the 9th, 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th, and 15th Congresses.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader,
we adopt House Resolution 881.
is there an objection? The chair is none. The motion is approved.
Okay na? Boss? Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn session until tomorrow, March 15, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Session is adjourned until 4 o'clock, March 15, 2017.